In the year 2014, a girl in Louisiana was watching the news about a hurricane of biblical proportions and a ship that had gone missing along with its crew. Her mother would inquire about the report, but soon her father would arrive, beckoning his wife to open the door because he found another one. Turning off the TV, the girl watches her father walk in carrying a little girl. Marguerite would notice the girl's arm and state that she must have been caught in an oil spill. Her father would take the poor thing upstairs, and her mother would tell her to grab some spare clothes from the laundry room to help the little girl get cleaned up. However, before doing so, she walks back into the living room to check a newspaper. It references Resident Evil 6, talking about keeping the BSAA stationed in Eastern Europe. Then she reads a letter her mother wrote to her father Jack, mentioning that there is a guest in the trailer outside. She chose to stay out there for some reason, instead of accepting their offer to put her up in one of the rooms inside of the home. This family, they seem to be, well, nice. On the calendar, the girl sees that her parents' wedding anniversary was to be on October 26th, and from this, we know that, right now, it's October of 2014. Next, reading a note on the fridge, it seemed that Lucas asked his parents to buy him electronic-related parts, and then, in the laundry room, his father thought that he might like a power tool for his birthday. Zoe's brother seems to have an affinity, a predilection for technology and mechanics. Procuring the clean clothes, wandering back into the dining room again to look at some of the art of her family that Zoe made back in the 4th grade, we learn that these are the Bakers: Jack, Marguerite, Lucas, and Zoe Baker. Just your happy, loving, and normal family living in the bayous of southern USA. Upstairs, in her brother's old room, she finds her father and the girl. Jack leaves to go check on the boathouse, concerned about the ramifications of the hurricane, leaving Zoe to her task. However, she decides to let the girl rest a little bit longer before moving her. So, looking around, she finds Lucas's secret hideout upstairs, in the attic. Bypassing his security, dropping the ladder, she goes up to find a note on his desk. Apparently, Lucas was keeping logs of one of their past interactions where she had chastised him for getting into her laptop without her knowledge. His response? That she was jealous of his hacking skills, otherwise known as using the same password across her phone and computer. Speaking of computers, Lucas had more dates that he was keeping track of. One day, his dad smacked him across the face for being on his phone while at dinner. Another day, he complained about the food his mom made and he got berated for it. But one day, Lucas said that Zoe called him a pervert for looking at her while she was doing yoga. Now, while he says all he did was look in on her, attempting to make it seem like he only glanced, girls usually have a good reason for having their guards up. Again, I say usually, almost always, not without reason. However, based on how weird Lucas is and his demeanor so far, you have to admit he is a creepy dude. Either he is a pervert or, and this might actually be more so the case, if I put my psychology thinking cap on, he enjoys making other people uncomfortable. People like him like to cross lines inappropriately because it is enjoyment for them, hence breaking into her laptop, looking at her while she does yoga, or even complaining about his mom's food. Lucas also wrote about how his dad got drunk and threw his stuff outside in a red box, but that's just for a puzzle later on. All in all, Lucas doesn't seem to be normal, and by the way that he words everything, this tells me that he is the type to minimize things and self-victimize. But moving on, Zoe finally checks in on the girl her dad found.
All right, little girl, let's get you cleaned up.
They're mine now.
What?
Rushing out of the blinding darkness with only a lighter to guide her through, she calls out to her father, but the only response is this wicked and deafening silence. The shift from a relatively normal family night to an ominous onslaught of unknown evil fills her chest with abnormal levels of insane anxiety. She can simply feel something wrong in the air. Something
sinister.
A loud rumbling, a crash alerts Zoe. What was that, she wonders, uncertain of where that eerily menacing little girl went and why her family isn't around. But downstairs, she sees Lucas unconscious on the floor. She is unresponsive, but then she thinks that she hears her mother upstairs. Zoe can't quite make the words out, But she looks up, listening to the bizarre sounds of her mother's light footsteps and the slight screeches of the lantern. It does not take much to just know that something deeply disturbing is about to take a foothold here. The bathroom door is ajar, and her mother is talking to no one.
Mama, is that you?
Zoe, come look. Come see her gift. Look at all the pretties my little girl is giving me! Kiss me, lover!
What the hell? Get to the garage! Get some roller! Go, now!
The sounds of her parents screaming and being violent with one another sends her straight into flight or fight mode. Scurrying downstairs on autopilot, palpitating, she gets into her dad's garage to acquire the rope. Except, when she starts ascending the steps, she can hear her mother's yelling suffocated by the sounds of splashing waters. Zoe gets to the door, and she can't believe her eyes. Why was father shoving mother's face into the bathtub?
Stop it!
Don't you worry. It's a whole lot worse than it looks. Cleanliness is next to godliness, and no man is a good fucking close to meeting him right now. She wants me to do this. I have to show her how to hold. She wants us all to show her our love.
Daddy!
You don't want to disappoint her now, do you? We can't do that.
What are you talking about?
Your new sister, Eveline. When I ask for rope, I expect to get rope. just gonna have to teach you a lesson.
Daddy! He's gotten into you!
While you're under my roof, you'll do as I say. You hear me?
Get away! Daddy! Stop it! Please!
She's waiting for you.
Daddy, stop! Oh! Why are you doing this?
Yo, what's the matter, honey? Don't you want to play with your new sister?
That is the fate that would await her. But luckily, she utilizes the rope to lock herself inside of a room. She quickly attempts to look for a way out, but she needs to hurry up. Her father is huffing and puffing, about to kick the door in, and Zoe is able to climb out the window to escape on the veranda just in time. However, her brother would not be able to escape the clutches of his father. She watched helplessly as he dragged her brother by his leg, clothes scraping on the wooden floor, pleading to be released, only for the door to be shut. "Accept her gift," her father said. Her gift? The little girl? And what gift could be so special that it would turn her parents into crazies? Zoe knew that nothing could be done. Evil has taken residence in the place she once called home, and her family was no longer hers, that little girl. Zoe needed to get out, but her mother blocked the only exit. However, after evading her line of sight, she was finally able to leave. Through the crackling thunder and the stampede of night rain, she cries, hoping that this is just a horrific nightmare that she's unable to awaken from. Not knowing what to do or where to go, the daughter of the bakers goes into the trailer. Wait, didn't her mom mention that there was a guest staying here? There was, and she was lying unconscious on the floor. However, something on the table catches her attention. In front of a black case was a set of papers. The woman had written to Zoe's family, showing appreciation for their southern hospitality, and yet she also begged them to forget about her. She then mentions that she was tasked with transporting important cargo on that ship. Is she talking about the missing ship from the news? She also mentions that if the bakers got involved with her or that cargo, it would only spell trouble for everyone. She re-emphasizes to pretend that they never met. But it's this next page that sets alarms blaring in Zoe's mind. If they were to ever see a little girl near the ship, do not approach her. And if she does try to talk to you, attempt to leave, but don't make her angry. To Zoe's dismay, it can get worse from there. Because if illness has befallen her family, which it has, it's already too late. A fate worse than death. And yet, there is hope. She mentions a serum. However, with the rest of the note too difficult to read, Zoe Baker doesn't know what to make of this. The little girl, the gift, family, Lucas as her brother, she herself to be her sister. On the ground was some sort of object, but taped at the bottom was D005. Putting it down, the sound of the storm outside stops. And that is when... Jolting awake, Zoe's relieved to find that it was only a dream. But something is off. Her family seemed and sounded normal, although she can't help feeling the evil within.
There was this little girl.
Well, now, after breakfast, Lucas and I are going to have a look around and see if the storm did any damage. You two should have a look around the house.
That's a good idea, Jack. You remember the last hurricane? We thought we were lucky. And the next time it rained, there was a mess for sure.
Hello, sister.
This was actually happening. Zoe was to be trapped in this madhouse as deterioration consumed her and everyone and everything she knew. 3 years later in June, a man would awaken, locked down on a bed. He was imprisoned in a bedroom, and now Marguerite was walking in to bring him supper.
Sleep well, darling? Our daughter really likes you. She wants you to be her big brother. Oh, now don't get too excited. Don't jump up and down just yet. You want to be part of this family, you gotta eat like family. That smells good, don't it? You eat all this and you can be one of us. Then I'll take those things off and you can go out and play. But you gotta eat all of it.
I'm not eating that. It smells like shit.
I worked all day on that, you ungrateful prick! I made it with love! You better behave yourself now!
He wasn't going to eat this blackened soup and whatever else this stuff was. Instead, he was going to find a way out. The clamp on his wrist was weak and easily pulled off with his other hand, yet a myriad of puzzles awaited him, which he hated. What made it even more difficult was that if he made too much noise, Mrs. Baker would hear, and as a consequence, she would come stomping back up the stairs, requiring the man to get back in bed and pretend that he hadn't been out of it. Now, to add to his credibility, he even took a sip of the soup, but that was a mistake because it made him cough out blood. However, he had also made another huge mistake while he was snooping around. He left the drawer open.
Huh? Now hold on just a minute. That drawer didn't open itself. This is what you get.
No. I'll be good.
This man needed to move as silently as possible, putting everything back exactly where it was and how he found it. In doing so, Marguerite would gleefully return with more food. But still, she would stop and sense that something was off. She couldn't quite put her tongue on it, so she left the man alone to eat his cockroaches and expired innards. Nothing was going to stop the man from surviving. Nothing. Solving all of the puzzles and getting the snake key, escape seemed to be within reach, until he hears the door slam and the monstrous woman call his name.
Frankie, where are you?
Now, if you look closely, you might have seen that there was a face that popped up in the tape. Freeze it at the right frame, turn it upside down, something came for Clancy right when he was on the verge of leaving. But who or what was this ghoulish figure? Whether or not he knew it didn't matter now, because Clancy would regain consciousness inside of a cold and dark room, left hand bound to a metal contraption, and across from him, another in the same terrifying situation. Several TVs behind him glitched to life as Lucas would appear on screen, and he wants to play a game. Blackjack. Add up all the cards and whomever is closest to 21 wins. The person with a lower number loses, and if you go over 21, you bust and you lose too. Clancy goes first and luckily hits a 21 out the gate, but his opposition, the man panicking across named Hoffman, isn't so lucky. The loser loses their fingers. However, is this maniac actually going to let the winner leave? Once their fingers are gone, what else do they have to offer this lunatic? Lucas. I knew it. He gets off on watching other people's discomfort and suffering. As his twisted game continues, the prospect of either one of them being set free from this death trap seems abysmal.
Hit me. Don't do it, please! Let's just keep it going, boys. Who's this one? And you'll need a partner to jerk you off.
At some point, Clancy and Hoffman were both on the verge of death. In the preceding round, Clancy wins, and Hoffman loses all of his fingers. Exhausted, he seemingly dies, and Clancy asks Lucas if he's now free to go since he won. Now at first, he says he's going to keep his promise, but then, breath expels from Hoffman's mouth. He's denying death and trying to steel his resolve to return to his family. The man with a burlap sack on his head gets up and he demands another round. The sight of this invigorates the demented Lucas as he shuts off all the lights and sets up another one of his death machines. High voltage execution. Hoffman, tired and terrified but not willing to let Clancy win, tells him to just die because he has a family to go back to. Clancy would not yield, and their torture seemed to go on forever. At one point, both of them even hit a draw. However, in Lucas's eyes, that was just another excuse to send electrical currents through their bodies, frying their brains and blood out. Clancy just barely survives this, outlasting Hoffman, whose guts have likely spilled out of his eyes at this point. And yet, Lucas was still not done with them. Jolting the dead man's body again, he pretends that Hoffman is still alive and ready to play some more, even talking for him. As if the horror couldn't get any worse, the sight of a spinning steel pinwheel, ready to rip his face from the top of his head down to the bottom of his jaw, comes down to petrify his soul. The only way out of this hell is to beat Lucas at his own game. Eventually, despite doing just that, in spite of the game being rigged from the get, Clancy wins. Or does he? Earlier, in the year 2014, before everything we just saw, Mia Winters is watching a video of herself on her laptop. She had sent her husband Ethan a short video recording saying how much she misses him due to her being away on a babysitting trip. When that video is done, her hand balls up as she hyperventilates. Blood and blackened powdery substances cover her hands and arms as she proceeds to record another message for her husband. In it, she tells him that she did lie to him. She wasn't on a babysitting trip, but she doesn't have the time to tell him anything else, so all she leaves him with is this ominous message to stay away. Now, I love my wife, and if I got a random and concerning message from her where she appears to be disheveled and distressed, staying away and forgetting about her is the absolute last thing I would do. Just like any good man who truly loves his wife, Ethan never lost hope, despite 3 years passing by. And in July of 2017, he would receive a message from Mia. She was still alive, and now she wanted her husband to come get her. This brings him to Dulvey, Louisiana, to a certain family's house in the wetlands. Pulling up and parking his car, Ethan proceeds the path. Muggy, filled with critters, atmosphere yellow-tinged from the blessed golden sun. But coming up to the iron gates, he doesn't know about the evil within the baker's residence. Compelled regardless to find his wife, locked gates would not impede his progress. Following a road over to the left, it was with great hope that he would find another way in. However, he would begin to notice things that were rather odd. First was a van with equipment scattered around. It looked as if whomever parked here never returned, or never had the chance to. Checking inside, he finds a pamphlet for sewer gators. This rusty and molded vehicle belonged to them. They were working on a project where they were going to sneak into a ghost house. Why was Mia here? On the back of the paper it says, "Join us," and then nearby there was a sign that said, "Accept her gift." This is what Zoe's parents would tell her. Forging ahead, Ethan would see a man just walk across him. But as quickly as he appeared, he disappeared. Was that a ghost? However, that wasn't as disturbing as what he sees next. An unsettling display of mutilated cows arranged with care and intent, but to what end? Up ahead, he would find his wife's driver's license in a pile of burning belongings. So she was here. But looking upon this derelict house from the outside, Ethan wondered if she was even alive. But doubt had no place in his heart. Finding an open door, he rushes in. It immediately shuts behind him, though. He tries to reopen it, but it was locked tight. Something doesn't want him to leave now that he is here. He steps into the rundown hall, where light was barely able to grace the walls, when suddenly a loud banging startles him. He freezes, realizing that despite how quiet it is, he is not alone. The domain that Ethan stepped into seemed to somehow exist, isolated from the outside world. The kitchen was corrupted, and it appears it had been degraded for a long time. The walls and blinds were falling apart, dishes and garbage overflowed on the ruined counters, tables, and floors, a sickly sight in the microwave. A dead crow. Moldy and grotesque, you can't even call this food in a pot. No matter where he looked, this house, no longer a home, as it has been desecrated beyond salvation. On the kitchen table is the local newspaper talking about how 20 people had gone missing in just the past 2 years. Stepping into the dim hall, he happens to check a drawer, and inside is some black substance, perhaps a powder even, with an almost weird pattern on it. And then he enters a deathly living room. Apart from the static glow of the TV, it appears not a single living soul had been in here for years. Immediately noticing a picture on the floor, Ethan looks at it to see a woman, though he's unsure of who it is because of how faded and blurry it is. Suddenly, he hears a noise behind him, causing him to turn around and inspect, but he sees that nobody's there. Continuing to look around the living room, he feels the almost innately human pull to play the piano, although it seems the spirits in this haunted house don't want the silence to be disturbed. Ethan walks over to the fireplace and notices a family portrait, a smiling boy next to his stern-faced father, a curious girl on her smiling mother's lap. Once upon a time, these people called this place home. But what secrets lie within these creaking walls? Turning around, a photograph of a cell was tucked into the crevices of an armchair. It was hard to make much of it, but the singular light casting shadows of the iron bars told Ethan enough, that this was a jail. But where was this cell, and who was confined to it? Perhaps watching this VHS tape he found would give him answers. But what he saw grabbed him by the spine and shook him. 3 men under the guise of night, came to this very same house looking to record footage for their show. But this was about to be the biggest mistake of their lives. The swinging chair should have been a telltale sign that the rumors about this place were true. But for these ghost chasers, this was just another gig for them to sell to their viewers. Sewer gators, Ethan thought. These guys were from the van that had the pamphlet. Something happened here, and they never got to go back. His eyes pierced into the past, brows furrowed as he continued to watch them struggle to open the door, until one of them kicked it open. But there was a moment of hesitation as the dust dissipated. They peer through the darkness until the cameraman runs in, eager to see what's in store. Still, he listens to Andre and Pete's back and forth. Pete wanted to know why they chose this place to run the show. Andre's baffled that he didn't prep or read the briefing. However, Pete believed that he was above all of this, doing small-time web shows that people watch in motels at midnight. He touted that he used to be an anchor, so there was nothing to prepare for at all. But Andre grounded him, reminding him that he was just the weekend sub, not a full-blown news anchor, so he didn't fall that far from grace. Pete's annoyed, but he wants to get this job done, so he restates the initial question. And Andre says that this farmhouse has been abandoned for 3 years. The Bakers used to live here, but they went missing and may have even been murdered. Andre offers more, saying that while the heads of the house were quiet, their son Lucas had numerous bad rumors about him. Locally, he was known as a bad seed. Further inspecting, Andre separates from the group. However, when Pete calls out to him, he doesn't respond. He asks Clancy, the cameraman, if he saw where he went, but the cameraman doesn't talk. He just records. This alarms Pete as he presses into the hall, panicking. A loud bang and a clang causes Pete's body to tense up. To avoid the dead silence from cutting into them, he asks Clancy if he heard it too. Anxiety festers quickly and they head on into the room that Ethan was in right now, watching them from the future. No sound from Andre, but Pete does eventually find a secret lever under the fireplace. Tugging on it, it opens a hidden door in the wall, and Pete realizes that this time, this house, this gig, it's the real deal, not just some gimmick, and he wants to leave now. But they can't leave Andre behind. Maybe they should have. Because Clancy climbs down the ladder, and when he turns around, he freezes. The hairs on his neck raise and he holds his breath. It's Andre, but he's not moving. He's just facing the wall on his tiptoes. With the knowledge obtained from the tape, Ethan pulls the lever and falls off the broken wooden ladder. He continues down a passage that brings him to flooded waters when out surfaces Andre, water and maggot-logged. Inspecting the walls around him, he wonders if these were all the missing people from the newspaper. Moving along, the smell of cold, wet stone and iron fills his lungs. He notices weird red writings on some wood, but when he goes in to try and read it, that sound caused me to tense up and mash all the buttons on my controller. My body wanted to hit retry before I even knew what was going on. This would be the only jump scare in Resident Evil 7 for me. Ethan checks out the noise, but sees no one's there, and yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He continued nonetheless. The red writings, next to the drawings of the family, the words were difficult to make out, but 3 words did seem to stand out. I'm sorry, Daddy. He didn't know what to make of this, so he pressed on to find that jail from the photo. Cautiously looking around, unsure of what to expect when he gets closer, Ethan isn't sure, but he calls out to his wife. She's not responding. His chest was thumping, honored to see her again, but immediately remembering the situation and where they were. He had to find the keys, and while he looked around, he saw a list of names, victims. Some were dead, some were turned, but Clancy's name was at the bottom with an L on it. Why was the cameraman's designation different? Grabbing the bolt cutters, he gets into the tattered and padded room. Rust and disgust, Ethan can't even think straight, but his body knows that he's not safe. so he checks behind him first before walking over to her.
Mia, oh, thank God I found you. It's me. It's Ethan.
Ethan? Ethan?
Are you all right?
You shouldn't be here.
What do you mean? You contacted me.
No, I wouldn't. Did I? Did anyone see you? Did he see you?
Hey, who else is here? What the hell's going on?
Daddy's coming. We need to go.
Daddy?
We need to go now!
Who was Daddy? And why did her pale skin have these dark blemishes on her? They didn't quite look like bruises, almost like there was something black right under her skin. And Mia didn't seem to be all there together, because she didn't know if or not she sent Ethan a message, and she had no grasp of how much time had passed since she went missing. 3 years, 3 whole years. How could she not know how much time went by? What happened to his wife? What's wrong with this place? What did they do to her? Ethan would stop her again, insisting they talk about the message she sent him, although she is adamant that it wasn't her who did. If she couldn't tell him that, then could she at least explain what was going on? But she exasperatedly breathes out, "I am telling you everything that I know." He stands there, at a loss for words, while she frantically looks around as if somebody would come through the walls at any moment. Hurrying along, she leads him into a room where her voice would lift, certain that there was a door out of here, but there wasn't. Horror resets into her throat as she cries out that the door is gone, and then it drops back down as she eerily switches her tone. "We're going to be a family, now that you're here." Ethan was perturbed by this, so he steps back, unsure if this is even his wife that he's talking to. Seemingly drained, she stumbles to the sofa talking about the door again. He places his palm on her back, noticing the dark spots. Was it dirt?
Mia,
We gotta get out of here.
just stay here, all right? I'm gonna have a look around.
First thing he finds is a paper that says E001 on it, and flipping it over, it's a picture of some old lady in a chair. But Ethan doesn't think much of it, so he proceeds to the back where he would find a doll of a woman and a little girl. Dashing after her, scared that his beloved was endangered, he goes up the steps and doesn't even question why the door creaked open for him. However, looking all over, he doesn't find her, until he hears banging coming from the basement. Then, a voice hissing.
Mia, wait! Wait!
I can hear her. I can feel her clawing her way back inside of me. Get out! Leave me alone! I've been bad. I deserve this.
Ethan doesn't recognize his wife. He sees that it's her, but she's possessed. How is he ever going to be able to see her the same? For now, he pours some of this liquid on his hand and it cures the slash and stab wounds that she inflicted upon him. But just as quickly as he is healed, Mia unnaturally rises back up, twists his wrists, and with ink-filled eyes, she growls, "Leave me," before tossing him through a wall. She then rips down a sharp part of the wall and roars out, "Go," to her husband. If she was possessed, a part of her was trying to resist, trying to get him to do what she said in her message and stay away. But he was already here, and he wasn't leaving without her. Ethan picks up an axe as Mia scowls that she's dead and can never leave. Lunging at him with her wooden stake, he does his best to fight her without hurting her, but he's left with no choice. Stopping her stab, he punches her chin once, then twice, before cleaving right into her clavicle. Blood splurts out and the darkness rescinds from within her. Ethan, filled with a myriad of confused emotions, can't believe what he's done. His wife, blood seeping out of her head and pooling onto the floor. He looks around, not sure what to do. And then, suddenly, the phone rings. Running over to answer, a woman's voice tells him that he shouldn't have come here. It's Zoe Baker, the daughter. She's somehow still cognizant and not like the rest of her family. She tells Ethan that he can leave through the attic, but when he hangs up, he hears a door open. His wife's body isn't there. Feeling both relieved and horrifyingly concerned, he picks up the axe and goes down the hall.
Ethan, it's okay. It's okay, it's me. I know you didn't mean to hurt me. You shouldn't have done that! It fucking hurts! Now, let's see what you feel. If my jaw was contained, I'll break. But anyway, I promise, must burn it all down.
Suffering from this flesh wound, he picks up his hand, goes to the attic, finds a gun, and finally accepts that this is the only way he is going to save his wife. And when he discovers the exit Zoe mentioned, a chainsaw-wielding Mia smashes through the window and jumps him, forcing Ethan to put a few rounds into her. She drops to the floor, growling out, "I love you." But then, out of nowhere,
Welcome to the family, son.
Come on. Don't you die on us now. You have work to do.
Where am I? What the hell?
Rise and shine, sleepyhead. It's time for supper.
Who are all you people? Where's Mia?
Eat it. It's good.
Dumb son bitch wasn't no good if it hit him.
Yes.
Not again.
Get out to it, Marguerite. His boy's got to eat. He got to have his supper. Come here, boy. Let's do this.
Shit, he's not eating it, Jack. He's not eating
Shut
it.
the hell up, Marguerite.
Eat that for him.
Get the hell out of here.
You're a son of a bitch. Oh, I can't believe it. He's son of a bitch. He's not eating it. He's not eating it.
This was supposed to be a very special feast. No, boy.
God damn it. I'll bet it's that cop again.
Goddamn pigs. I'm coming back for you.
what the hell is happening? Ethan attempts to calm his nerves with his breathing, although the rancid smell of this rotting meat is sickening. He quickly starts trying to find a way to free himself by tipping over in the chair. Rising up, he realizes there's an old lady at the table. Who is she? She looked dead. But she was moving, ever so slightly, but she still was moving, breathing. Her eyes were as white as snow when she blinked, so she was alive, but perhaps blind. Ethan didn't think much of her. Trying to orient himself, looking around, he finds a book written by Clive O'Brien, former BSAA director, a nod to Resident Evil Revelations. And then, he finds a newspaper talking about the 3 men from the VHS tape. After perusing, Ethan walks down the hall, wind howling just outside, but then, that man shows up in front of him. Deer in the headlights, he doesn't know what to do next until he chooses to move forward. But that is when Jack notices Ethan. Rage and hate spewing through his clenched teeth, he stomps towards him with a shovel. Ethan knows he can't fight this imposing figure, so he turns. He gets hit regardless, but he ignores the pain and the old man's cackling. He runs into the dining room, not even wondering where the old lady went. He runs around, thinking that Jack is behind him, but then a shovel comes stabbing through the wall in front of him. Jack walks through like the wall is nothing, impeding his progress once again. After ringing around, Ethan attempts to go down a hatch, but Mr. Baker appears out of nowhere again.
You came to the wrong house, boy!
The world starts to lose color. Sounds begin to dampen. Blood fills his eyes and Ethan's adrenaline takes over as fumes. His killer toys with him, cuts off his leg, then helps him, giving him some of that healing liquid, saying that he can fix his leg with it. What does he want? Somehow, this stuff healed his hand from a brutal stab wound. In fact, who reattached his hand after it was chainsawed? All he can remember is the woman's shoes. Lo and behold, the man was right, and Ethan can walk again like nothing ever happened. But the insanity doesn't stop there. Jack smacks the floor, saying he better run because Daddy's here. Escaping down the hatch and going through the crawl space, he ends up in the laundry room to get another call from Zoe, who tells him that he can find another way out through the main hall. Along the way, he finds pictures. One of Lucas, who immediately gives asshole vibes. Another of the crazy husband and wife. Then he sees another one of a girl with her eyes scratched out for some reason. Probably Zoe. In another room, he finds a small boot with the name Eveline on it. That little girl. Soon a cop would show up at the window, saying that he's not a cop, he's the deputy. Ethan pleads for help, but he's cautious, trying to assess the situation. Deputy says that they've been getting calls about missing people, but Ethan doesn't care about any of that. He just wants help to get out, because the people in there are trying to kill him. Ethan doesn't even mention his wife is here, but the officer still maintains ambivalence because Ethan might be involved in whatever strange things are happening here. He understands his point of view and agrees to tell him anything. So, the deputy says to meet him in the garage, but before he goes, Ethan asks for his gun. Just something to defend himself with. Of course, he's not just going to hand over his firearm, but Ethan is able to convince him to at least give him a knife. Not exactly what he had in mind, but it's better than nothing. However, it didn't matter, because once in the garage...
Hey, we gotta get the fuck out of here.
Now first you need to tell me what you're doing out here alone in the middle of the night.
Me? What about you?
No, it's my job. Won't you do your job and tell me? Answer my questions.
You're not gonna believe me if I told you.
Try. Hey, put that door back. Put that door back. Wait!
Fuck it! I'm gonna kill everybody.
Jack wildly, menacingly arcs his axe around the garage, attempting to body Ethan, and yet he's also playing with him and saying, "You're part of the family now." This dissonance in Jack's demeanor only adds to the confusing web of madness that Ethan is stuck in. Regardless, he's not going to sit around and wait to be killed or maimed. He gets into the car and starts trying to ram him down. To this, Jack just laughs at the desperate attempt. Ripping off the hood of the car like it's paper, he gets next to Ethan and starts driving the car for him somehow, like they're on a joyride together. The situation becomes even more dire when he sees Jack's new idea, to drive them both head-on into these metal beams. Unable to take his hands off the wheel, get out of the car, hit the brakes, or take his foot off the gas pedal, the crazed maniac laughs, throttling them forward. Brushing off death and being domed like nothing, he turns to look at Jack, who's now sitting in white flames, but then, as you might have guessed, he's still not dead yet.
Oh boy! Now look what you've done, motherfucker! Do I have your attention, boy? You're about to see some wonderful. Oh, fuck!
This would not be the last Ethan saw of him. Into the main hall, as instructed by Zoe, he looks around to find a new report talking about the missing persons again. This time, we see who wrote that report. Alyssa Ashcroft from the Outbreak Files. The ringing of the phone snaps Ethan back out of his head, and when he answers, Zoe asks if her daddy gave him a hard time. Was Zoe just watching everything from somewhere? After telling her he killed him, she said that Ethan might actually be the one to succeed, before instructing him how to get out of the house. Exploring further, Ethan finds a picture of the Arklay Mountains in 1991, reminiscent of a certain mansion. In a drawer is a picture of a little girl, and on the back he sees that her name is Eveline. Connecting this photo to the boot with Evelyn's name on it, it can be deduced that that little girl Jack carried in that one night was Eveline. Now, when he goes upstairs, somehow that old lady would be right there, sitting in the corner. How did she get up the stairs? Not thinking much of her, he presses into the next room to find a journal where Jack wrote about the storm. It had caused a lot of damage, but then Ethan reads that Lucas mentioned something about a huge ship that washed up in the bayou, and Jack was planning to check it out the next day. Surely that ship is the same one that went missing from the news report about the hurricane. Ethan finds a tape with Mia's name on it. She was still alive despite him shooting her, and now she's saying that it wasn't her who attacked him. This was just recorded recently. Mia can't explain what's happening because she herself doesn't know, and before she can say more, Marguerite screams behind her. She's been found. Ethan watches as his wife's breathing becomes more rapid and heavy. She runs for her life, past hanging dolls on an old bridge leading into an even older house. Looking for a place to hide, she then hears a little girl calling out to her, calling her Mommy. Mia is petrified. She turns and sees that Eveline was right there. Mia can't get any words out due to the sheer terror of seeing her, but as soon as she turns away for just a second, Eve laughs away. Continuing to hide, she listens as Mrs. Baker states she knows that she is colluding with her daughter and that she wants to do things with Ethan. Unfortunately for Mia, Marguerite starts walking outside. With no place to hide, she comes straight for her, grabbing her and telling her to get back to the room. However, Mia would be able to get away, only to have Marguerite appear again in the room over, angry that Mia won't just accept Eveline's love and desire for everybody to be her family. One thing that makes Ethan wonder is what Marguerite says when she says that there are known unknowns and that Mia is not paying attention. What does Marguerite mean by this? Escaping down the hatch, Marguerite would shut the door on her. Further along, she blocks the path with a crate. Mia is scared, but then she notices something in a box nearby, so she looks at it, and it's a picture of her and Eveline holding hands in front of a ship.
Where do you think you're going?
Ethan, please help. Ethan, help.
Ethan didn't know what they did to his wife, but he continues trying to find a way out. Going upstairs and into the bathroom, looking at the venomous water, he drains it. It reveals a piece of a puzzle that he needs, but he can't seem to look away from this disgusting mess of God knows what. It looked like a wet, living mold. He had to keep moving though. But right when he tried to leave the bathroom, Jack was back. He picks Ethan up with one arm, half of his head grotesquely regenerating, grunting that this sure beats the hell out of dying. This was Eveline's gift. Was Jack immortal? After being able to lose him, Ethan uses the piece that he got from the tub to solve a puzzle, and then he would ask, who builds these kinds of complexities? Shimmying forth, he finds a room with a drawing on a whiteboard. It's his wife, sad and lonely. However, then he finds a piece of paper on the board detailing some of Baker's victims. Some were dead, some were successful enough to turn. Proceeding into the next room over, he sees more of that black living sludge, and then something grows and breaks out of the wall. It squelches and makes rubbery noises as it detaches and forms into an imposing monster with sharp teeth and voided eye sockets. Ethan doesn't hesitate to start slashing as the creature claws at him. It's not without great difficulty, but Ethan swipes at it until its head explodes and its body goes limp. No matter where he went, monsters were always there to stand in his way, and right as he was about to grab the object that he needed to get out of the house, Jack, the daddy of monsters, happened to be right there to take it. Pacing back and forth, Jack was frustrated. He was supposed to be Eveline's father and Marguerite her mother, but now she wants Ethan and Mia to replace him, and as a consequence, Jack is going to make him pay. Heading into the room that Jack was just in, he sees that deputy from earlier. Poor lad. Then he finds the dog head he needs hanging on a hook, but this was a trap. Jack grabs his face and kicks him below. The fight is on. Ethan opens fire, point blank square into the side of his face, but Jack does not stop, hitting his knee with Ethan's head. A few more shots to his cranium and he drops, opening up his neck where his head would hang from the side while a blob of mutated meat exposed itself as its weak point to be focused on. The more damage inflicted, the more Jack seemed to mutate. The question is, what kind of abomination could Jack become if he suffered enough damage? But for now, he rips open a fence to pick up chainsaw scissors. Ethan immediately arms himself with the chainsaw next to it. They would hack and saw, edging one another as far as they could. Flesh and metal. The sounds of ripping, tearing, and Jack's laughing fills the rusted arena until Ethan, who somehow shrugs off being shredded into, cuts Jack down in half. But Jack promised he was gonna die here anyway. His upper body explodes, throwing chunks of guts all over. It's a shame that Ethan couldn't keep the chainsaw because he needed to cut open the metal bar locking him in the caged arena. But as he was going up the stairs, he hears a woman humming. It was that old lady again. How and why was she here? At the top of the stairs, she immediately stops humming, even turning her head to acknowledge that Ethan was standing next to her. But he doesn't think much of it, so he proceeds into another room to read a doctor's note for Marguerite. She'd gotten x-rays done and discovered that in her head were fungus-like structures related to mold. This causes Marguerite to suffer from visual and auditory hallucinations. The doctor then states that she needs to have the fungal parasites inside of her removed, but it's already too late. The Bakers were infected with this fungus, but it wasn't fun at all. Moving forward, Ethan makes his way outside and into the trailer where he finds a bra. But he knows it's not his wife's, so he reasonably deduces that it might be Zoe's. However, why was this relevant or even an available option to inspect? He didn't know, but perhaps after looking all around the trailer, It was to tell him that Zoe had been living here for quite a bit, because he finds a note where Zoe talks about suffering from Eveline's gift, which he knows is the fungal parasite now. But for some reason, Zoe hadn't turned like her parents, although it doesn't help much because she still can't leave. Because if she did, Eveline would know, and Zoe would be dead for even trying. Ethan reads the next page. Zoe said that Eveline was with Mia and that she knew about a cure, a serum. Looking around a bit more, seeing what Zoe did with the place, she would soon call to tell him the situation. Her family and Mia are infected, and no one is leaving until they get the fungus out. Ethan is to help her and his wife by finding the serum, and his search brings him to the old house that Mia was at in the VHS tape. There he finds a painting of the very same house dated February 8th, 1802. Upon going further into the old house, he finds Mia, who somehow escaped Marguerite. Excited to see her sane and in one piece, it doesn't last long because Lucas pops up from behind. I guess he was just waiting there this whole time, and he takes Mia, yelling at Ethan to do something. From there, he tries to enter the room that supposedly had the serum that Zoe spoke of, but I guess Marguerite was also waiting around the corner because she pops out, screeching at him to stay out before tossing him over. The old wooden floorboards collapse and Ethan proceeds to fall down below where she would stand over him to attack. After enough bullets, she falls forward and into the pit, but then she crawls to her lantern, calling it her light. Soon the pit fills up with the inky fungus to consume her. This forces Ethan to climb up the ladder that was coincidentally placed here. He enters the room to find Marguerite's altar, adorned with plastic dolls, candles, and a portrait of a little girl in a dress. The centerpiece is a box. It opens as soon as Ethan approaches, but there's no serum inside. Instead, its contents are 4 small vials, a box that says Tensu, a bright yellow light expanding out of a small cylinder, and a mummified little person wired down. However, there is a note on the lid: the materials needed to produce the cure for the fungal parasite. On the phone, he tells Zoe that he needs to gather a D-series head and arm. But what is the D-series, and what does it have to do with that little mummy in the case? Ethan learns that he can find the arm inside this house, and he proceeds to look around. He walks into one of Marguerite's rooms and reads her diary. Apparently, after Mia and Eveline came to the Baker house, she began to exhibit symptoms. Zoe would later say that something was odd about the both of them. But this is a bit weird to read because we saw what happened at the very beginning in the span of just one night when Jack found Eveline and then carried her into the house. We saw that Mia and Eveline didn't arrive here at the same time. They came separately. However, in Marguerite's journal, it's been made to seem as if they were around the house for quite some time, long enough to get infected and even to be able to go see the doctor and get x-rays done at the hospital. As the month of October progressed, Marguerite would refer to the infection as Eve's gift. Moreover, she mentioned that she hid the D-series arm somewhere around here. Leaving that area, when he gets back to the pit, the black substance is gone, but the lantern remains, and almost immediately he sees an elongated arm reach over and grab it. It's Marguerite, further pulled into her infection, crawling away on all fours through a tunnel. He pursues her into the greenhouse, where she would scare him by smashing through a window and holding him down with her supernaturally long limbs. The fight against Mrs. Baker involved a series of sequences where she would sneak attack from different angles around the building. At one point, she towered imposingly over Ethan. Then she would crawl demonically away, making his skin crawl. He wanted nothing more than to end her. And eventually, Marguerite Baker would spasm to death, before calcifying into a brittle, white pail. Glad it's over, Ethan tells her to stay dead as he picks up her lantern and uses it to enter a locked room. Inside is a large and expansive area seemingly made for a bunch of kids. Toys and colorful decorations were strewn all around. A ghost playing with a ball, a picture Eveline drew of her and maybe 20 other people, her family, kids' shoes, books, dolls, and a creepy teddy bear on a rocking chair just going back and forth. And then, a picture of a crashed ship surrounded by dead people. Ethan connected this to the ship that Jack wrote about, but when he picks up the teddy bear, the black fungus squelches, slowly traveling from the bear's mouth all the way down. Continuing further on in, out of nowhere, his flashlights go out, and in the dark void, Eveline's voice tells him to stay away. But when the light comes back, he doesn't see her. Opening into an empty room that only has a bed in the middle and a toy house in the corner, Ethan would soon find a hidden hole in the wall where, inside, he discovers, he can't really explain it, but it looks like the corpse of a little girl with an abnormal arm attached to her. It seemed like it was proportionately bigger than she was, and it looked as if though it was melded into her. Ethan wondered what happened here, and why was she in this little room, almost appearing to be venerated. But this was the D-Series arm he needed, D002. Pulling it off, he turns and he sees Eveline standing right outside, but she runs away before he can see her face. Instead, the room was covered in the same red writings he found in the basement. "I'm sorry, Daddy." Proceeding over to the trailer, Zoe said that she would meet Ethan there, but upon arriving, she was nowhere to be found. Instead, the phone rings and Lucas greets him. Lucas had both Mia and Zoe, but not only that, he also had the D-Series head, and if Ethan wanted that head from Lucas, he needs to play Lucas's games. First, he has Ethan run around and try to get 2 keycards. One would be in the moldy basement where he would actually see that old lady again. Thinking nothing much of her, despite how bizarre and creepy she was, he continues into the room with the deputy where Lucas had decapitated his head and left instructions for Ethan to stick his hand inside.
Sorry, buddy.
Using this to open previously locked doors, in one particular room, he enters and finds the old lady again, but thinking nothing much of her, he begins to look around some more. One interesting thing he does see is a picture of Jack when he joined the Marine Corps. It's a cool detail, and it also explains why Jack always looks angry in his pictures and why he's a little extra insane. However, back down, he's disgusted to see that abhorrent cow altar once again, the one that he first saw outside that, in retrospect, set the tone for how deranged this experience was going to be. Lucas probably made this. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Saw, and The Exorcist had a child, and it was called the Baker House. Lucas really was a bad seed. Now in his old room, Ethan reads his journal entries from when he was a kid. He had liked puzzles, which explains why he booby traps this place today and has Ethan run around solving a bunch of puzzles. But he also talks about another kid named Oliver, who once called Lucas a crazy head. Ethan discovers that there was something terribly wrong with Lucas, even as a child. One day, Lucas lied to Oliver, inviting him over for his birthday, then locking him inside of his attic. This was an assortment that he made all by himself as a kid. Oliver cried, but Lucas didn't care. Later, he would change the remotes and meld it into one of his trophies to prevent Zoe from going up there. Dark ingenuity at such a young age. How long had that boy been up there? Because, in another note, Lucas would write that Oliver stopped yelling, but he would knock from up there every now and then. Lucas locked him up there in April, and by May, he would write that the attic would stink and that a weird juice was dripping from the ceiling, but he didn't care much beyond that. Ethan was abhorred by Lucas. How did his parents not notice the loathsome monster that their son was? Ethan would continue, checking his robotics and engineering trophies around the room, none of which, by the way, were ever first place, but still makes sense of his affinity for his twisted games now. Making his way up to the attic, he finds a VHS tape, a renovation contract, Jack hired a company to install a secret door for some undisclosed reason, and the second keycard he needed. However, before delving further into Lucas's obvious trap, Ethan decided that he wanted to see what was on the tape that he just found. It is a good thing that he did. And not only because we get to see what happened to Clancy after he played blackjack with Lucas, but because what Clancy is about to go through is going to save Ethan in the future.
You, my friend, you are one lucky son of a bitch. You know, I actually envy you. What? You don't believe me? This toy? Well, you can't fake this. It has taken me weeks to finish this, and it is finally ready. And it's all for you. Oh, come on now. Don't be like that. It's gonna be fun. Just you wait.
Surrounded by shadows, only the low glimmer of a lone candle provided any source of light, but it was in the hands of a clown mannequin who Ethan was certain must have been an actual human being at some point. Without doubt, Lucas is sick enough to defile a person's corpse and fuse them with a robot. Clancy would then take a winding key from a barrel, letting a liquid spill on the floor, blow up a balloon with nails that wounded him all over, but also gave him a quill. All this to solve Lucas's puzzle. It sounds simple enough, but the water he needed to turn off the water was behind a door that required a password that only the clown had.
What the fuck is this? What are you doing? Oh,
Unfortunately, Ethan watched as Lucas was never intending to let him go. The cake blows up and fires spread, consuming him. Perhaps this was Lucas's twisted way of freeing Clancy. Accessing the door with the keycards, Ethan walked into Lucas's party, music thumping and lights glowing. He was ready to party, but then he found a room with a TV in it.
Ethan. 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 Hold on. I got something for you. Looky what I've got. You know what this is for? You know what Zoe wants to do with this? She thinks this thing is special. No, Ethan. That ain't special. This right here is special. You see, Ethan, not everybody wants to turn back the clock. What? What, Eveline? I'm just trying to show him. Not everybody wants to go back to how things were. Those are stupid. He doesn't understand that I don't want to go back to how things were before my father found y'all. Not everybody wants to turn back the clock. So Ethan, Ethan, you can crawl around underneath that filthy, rotten house all you want looking for them ingredients, but you ain't gonna find a goddamn thing, Ethan. You'll need that serum? Ooh, baby. You're gonna have to come through me. You hear? Now, come on, Ethan. What do you say? Fuck!
Walking through the booby-trapped halls, he would come to the same place that he saw Clancy get dragged into.
I know. Fucking password, right? Why don't you try 0814? No! 0621. No. It's 0514. Oh, come on. Take a chance. You never know.
The thing is, it didn't actually matter what password he put in. Even if he did enter 1408, the pipes on the right would still smite him. Ethan had to see Clancy's charred body first. Only then could he enter the room and play Joker's game. This is where Ethan would thank Clancy. Learning from his deadly mistakes, Ethan quickly solved the puzzle without taking out the winding key and letting that liquid spill on the floor. So when the cake blew up, the fire never actually spread. And Lucas did not like that. He didn't like losing, and he definitely didn't like being outsmarted. Ethan had been beating him since he came to the baker's residence. Enraged, as a last resort, he drops a ticking time bomb into the room. But Ethan just picks it up and places it through a hole in the wall. It explodes, and Lucas vacates his secret operations room, chair still spinning as Ethan just missed him. However, he does obtain the D-Series head, D005. On the TV, he sees where Zoe and Mia are being imprisoned. They're close by, So Ethan runs as fast as Capcom will let him, and as soon as he opens into their confinement chamber, he goes straight to his wife. But she doesn't say anything due to pure exhaustion, so he leaves her be for the time being, and he checks on Zoe, who says they need to hurry and make the serum. But there's just one issue. There's only enough ingredients for 2 vials. But Ethan thinks this is perfect. One for his dearly beloved, and one for this complete stranger. Zoe mixes the serums, and says there's a boat right outside that they can use to get to safety. Ethan thinks that they should just inject themselves right now, but they don't. Instead,
Hey, one of those is mine.
Zoe! Get your ass back to the house. I will deal with you later.
Jack is back with a rising revengeance. It's bad enough you take my new daughter from me. Now you're plotting against me? With my own blood? Jack is livid that he's not going to be Evelyn's father, and after a while of getting shot up, he would lament to Ethan that nobody loves him. But Ethan quickly responds with a shotgun blast to his eye, bringing the beast down. But not out, because as soon as he turns to leave through the door that Zoe just opened for him, Jack blocks the exit. Picking him up, Ethan is in the monster's clutches, but Zoe yells out to use one of the only 2 serums that they have, so he does. And Jack's reaction to the cure is bizarrely blissful as he remarks how good it feels. He writhes and then calcifies, just almost grabbing Ethan once more. One thing to note is that Jack's body did not crumble the same way that Marguerite's did. Ethan's just glad that Jack is finally finished. Finding Zoe and Mia by the pier, he dejectedly tells them that there is only 1 serum left. They panic about what they're going to do, but it's a no-brainer for Ethan to pick his wife. Zoe, a person he just met, does not take precedence over her.
It's fine. It was foolish thinking I could escape.
But Zoe,
Go! Both of you just go!
come with us. I'm sure there's someone who can help.
This is not home. Apparently I belong here.
I'll send help.
Don't bother. There won't be anyone left to help!
Don't worry, you'll get to see what happens if Ethan saves Zoe instead. In the boat, Mia shows gratitude to her husband, but for some reason that I don't understand, she gets upset when Ethan responds, "Who the hell else was I going to choose?"
Ethan.
Like, Ethan, Leon, and I genuinely don't understand why she's mad. However, Ethan would focus down on trying to get some answers from her. He knows that she's involved in all of this. He just wants the truth. She says that she can't remember anything, but Ethan insists that she tries to. He had his hand and leg chopped off for her. But that is when they see the boat. The one that went missing during the hurricane. The one that Lucas talked about. The one that Eveline drew a picture of. The rusted metal groaned on the bayou when suddenly the boat hit something. They don't know what they hit, but that's when venomous tendrils sprouted out of the water and the fungus began to crawl onto the boat, tipping them both over. Then, Eveline would wake Mia up. She found herself at the shipwreck. Looking around, she wonders how they got there, but deep down, she knew Eveline wanted her there. Finding her husband face in the dirt, she's about to get to him, but then darkness takes and whisks him away, forcing Mia to go into the ship. The mold was in and everywhere. It corroded the walls and infected the waters. Fear haunts every corner. But then, Mia would start to hallucinate, seeing the ship as it once was before. Unfortunately, she would also see what happened to the crew. They had died, trapped and melded into the fungus, and in another hallucination, she would see crew workers talking about how she killed everyone. Exploring more, Mia would see remnants of what happened. Signs saying, "She's not my child," a man who died to the black parasite hiding in the locker. Another message left behind in the dark corruption, "She's inside me, she's inside everyone." Eveline, the little girl, her gift. But Mia still couldn't remember everything, and yet she knew that this was her doing. Opening back out into the night air, seeing how the ship was torn in half, and looking at a photo of this boat, the LNG tanker Annabelle, Mia would then hallucinate and see just how horrifying the little creepy girl was.
Settle down, little girl. Settle
Are you remembering?
What? What are you?
Wondering what she wanted, Evie would ominously state, like a hurt child, that Mia had said they could be a family again. And it pains Mia not being able to remember or understand what she was referring to, but Eveline's patience was wearing paper thin. Exploring the ship, Mia would find notes left by the people who were here before. One individual wrote that while the day-to-day of being out at sea was tiresome, one thing did stick out. There were passengers sailing with them, a couple with a little girl. Now, the reason that this was outlandish was because the ship was a tanker, designed for transporting liquids like oil, for example, not a commercial cruiser where you would normally see people seeking passage across the seas. The man also wrote that he tried talking to the little girl once, but that her dad stabbed him with his eyes. After a while, heading up, Mia would find Eveline alone in a room watching static on TV. She slowly turns, ordering Mia to watch the videotape so that she could remember and that they could be a family again. The tape was dated for October 5th, 2014. Mia's name was on it, and it was titled Test Subject E001. See Transport Log, Top Secret. Mia watches herself talking to an injured man named Alan. He says that Eveline infected him, that it's too late, and he blames himself for even letting her get out. To this, Mia agrees, but then Alan wonders why Eveline didn't attack her. But that's when Mia says it's part of Eveline's imprinting protocol. That alone reveals so much, especially in the grand picture of the RE verse. Eveline is not a normal human girl. She was somehow created and was programmed to not hurt Mia, but why? Alan gives her Eve's tissue samples, and with that, Mia has to find Eveline because she's hiding somewhere on the ship. Continuing to watch the videotape, she sees herself read a report. Mia had been designated as Eveline's caretaker, but the scale and secrecy of this entire operation makes one wonder, who does Mia work for? Because she can't just be a normal babysitter. The report states that Eve needed to get transported because she was at risk of being stolen by rival organizations. As a result, Mia and Alan were tasked with bringing her on this tanker to this unnamed organization's Central American branch. They were also given strict guidelines to pretend that they were her parents, to use the device on Mia's wrist to monitor Eve, and that if all things go south, they had to dispose of her. Looking at Eveline's tissue samples, it has the designation E001, which looks familiar. And it also looks like the D-series arm and head that Ethan had to procure for the serum, D001 and D005. It is more than likely that they are connected, making Eveline, especially when thinking about Resident Evil as a whole, some sort of advanced bioweapon. And Eveline is the E-series, E001. Mia would search all over the ship for Eveline, only to be met with her black fungal masses and creations. The situation had devolved beyond reconciliation. However, after a time, Mia would close in on her. Eveline would call her mommy and ask if she was mad at her, and at first, Mia responds no, but is also taken aback by the fact that she just called her mommy. Eveline explains that she doesn't want to live in a lab anymore. She wants a house, a family, and Mia as her mother. Reluctantly, but looking to quell her, Mia agrees, just pleading for her to return. However, Evie escapes again, so Mia goes to find Alan. He states that without her treatments, Eveline is deteriorating. However, Alan makes a huge mistake, because he angrily curses her while saying that she always trusted Mia, but before he can say anything more, he starts begging for what's left of his life.
Evelyn, stop! Stop right now!
Mia reawakens, infected as the parasite swells through her. Rushing over to her laptop in the next room, she sends a final message to her husband. Stay away. Forget about her. Have a nice life. From there, she runs down the corrupted halls as the BOW unleashes hell.
We'll be together forever. Now do you remember?
Yes, Evelyn. I remember.
Can we be a family like before?
No, Evie. We can't be a family. We were never a family. We will never be a family.
Then I don't need you anymore.
This explains the oil that Marguerite found on Eve's body when they brought her home, and the picture that she drew of the boat. Understanding how and why they got here, there are still unknowns to be known. Like, who made Eveline? Who was Mia working for? What exactly is the fungus parasite that comes from Eve, and how precisely does it work? What is the D-series and E-series in more detail? What happens to the rest of the Bakers? Why are Mia and Zoe more resistant to Eveline's infection while the others aren't? And where is Ethan? In fact, speaking of him, how does he survive all the damage that he's sustained so far? For now, moving forward, Mia finds Ethan encased and she calls out to him, but for Ethan, he doesn't hear her calling to him, he hears Jack calling. And the fact that he's somehow mentally linked to Jack here and Zoe makes me think that Ethan was infected back at the start of the game. Now specifically when, I would guess as soon as he entered, because it's likely that Eveline's parasite is airborne. If not then probably when he made physical contact with Mia. So somehow, Ethan is connected to Jack and Zoe, probably through Eveline, and they are all connected to her, and this actually explains how Zoe was able to keep tabs on him, because Zoe always seemed to know whatever it was that Ethan had just done. That's why she was able to call him wherever he was and talk about whatever just happened. But moving forward, Ethan listens to Jack, who seems normal and kindred, saying that if he could have helped it, he never would have hurt him, that he and his family are not killers, even his son Lucas, but Ethan knows better. So it's likely that his family didn't know that Lucas was a sadistic murderer.
That girl, Evelyn, she did this. What the hell is she? Now, what did she do to you? She infected us with her gift. That's what she calls it. I found her near a busted out tank in the bayou. Everything changed after that.
So she infects you and then she takes control?
No. Not exactly, son. She just... She forces her way into your mind, your soul. You can't fight back. You are connected to her, and you can't resist the urge to... Oh, you're a different person after that.
Just like Mia. So Mia sent me that message because of Evelyn.
Listen, the girl just wants a family of her own. She's the key. You find her and you stop her. Ethan, free my family. Please.
Eveline, stay away from him.
Why? He doesn't love you. I can make him love you.
Don't hurt him.
Silly, I told you I'm not gonna hurt him.
Don't you dare.
For what? You're not my mommy. Remember?
Mia, how?
There's no time. You have to get out of here and find her. Here, take this.
What? Wait, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Saving your life. You need to go. I won't be able to resist for much longer.
No.
Now the villain bitch.
So somehow, everyone Eveline infects gets connected to her, but they don't share a collective consciousness. However, everybody is influenced by her, although Zoe and Mia happen to be quite resistant. And then it's odd that, despite getting the cure, Eve still manages to reinfect Mia before she shoves Ethan out. But perhaps reinfecting somebody, even after they have the serum in their system, isn't beyond the scope of what Eveline can do. Digressing, everybody ends up doing her bidding, which happens to be psychotic killings. Eve's main goal is to have a family, and in a dark and twisted way, while remembering she is just a child raised in a lab as a bioweapon, she was going to force everyone to be her family. But part of the reason she became so demented has to do with something that Alan said in the tape. She needs regular treatments, otherwise she becomes destabilized and begins to degrade, likely affecting her psychologically as well as physically. Escaping the ship, Ethan sees a helicopter flying overhead. Hopefully that's help on the way, but he's not going to wait for them to find Eve and save his wife. In the shack ahead, he listens to the radio. Somebody named Alpha 1, and immediately after having just played RE5 and 6, I think that's Chris Redfield, listens to Bravo 1 reports on the Baker house. No survivors and no Eveline. But they did discover that Lucas was sending messages to an unknown party. They don't exactly say who, although Bravo tells Alpha that he can probably guess who Lucas was talking to. They conclude their call, saying that they're going to inspect the mines and that if they see Eveline, kill her. Descending into the mines, Ethan discovers that Lucas had an entire operation running under here, and he was conspiring with some unknown third party. In Lucas's emails, dated 2015, just a year after Eve's arrival at the Baker's residence, he reveals that this unknown party gave him a cure that released him from Eve's control. However, Eveline still believed that Lucas was under her influence. He remarks that his parents are still under her control, and also wonders why she's like Vin Diesel, always talking about family. Lucas says to them that if they program that into her, then that's messed up. This tells us, 1, that Eveline was in fact a bioengineered product, and that 2, Lucas is working with the people who created her. In another email, he talks about how Mia is fading in and out of consciousness between reality and Eve's control. Now, because she tends to get violent, Lucas locked Mia in a cell, the one that Ethan found her in. Initially, Lucas thought that Eveline would be mad by his actions, but states she didn't actually care, and how she would even visit her cell sometimes. And this is kind of wild, because Lucas reiterates that their bioweapon is messed up in the head, and if Lucas is saying this about Eveline, then you know something is deeply wrong with her. Next year, in September, he emails them again, saying that as a consequence of Eve's obsession with family, she's been having everybody kidnap people to add into her family. But then, Ethan reads Lucas's words. Evie's looking sick. Her skin is getting all wrinkly, and she's getting gray hairs. It's like she's getting old all of a sudden. But Ethan doesn't think much of it. So he enters another room to read about the E-Series weapon, also to be referred to as the mold. The mold takes nutrients from its host to grow until it eventually takes over all the cells in the body, and this gives the infected individual remarkable regeneration capabilities, even being able to rejoin amputated arms and legs. Oh, Ethan is 100% infected. However, there's more. Once the mold reaches the host's brain, their thoughts become connected to the E-Series asset, or, no bars held, Eveline. Infected people will experience hallucinations and then come under Eveline's control, where the infected host would lose all power to make their own decisions. And once they are completely infected, they lose their human form, with physical mutations varying subject to subject. And if it gets to that point, trying to contain them would be extremely difficult. Looking around Lucas's labs, he sees pictures of people being experimented on with the mold and necrotoxin. I do wonder if Eve was engineered to be a BOW from the ground up, or was she born and then, as a baby, turned into a BOW? I'm sure I'm going to find out soon, though. Trying to make sense of what this project actually is, Ethan reads another report. Some of the details are redacted, which makes the picture harder to capture, but the report says that the project started around 2000. Originally, it had been tied to something called the Nexus Initiative, Next Gen Experimental Battlefield Superiority. The goal was to develop a BOW capable of neutralizing large groups of people without direct combat. The idea was to change them, turning enemy combatants into something obedient instead of outright killing them. Now, Nexus itself didn't last, but its resources were funneled into this project. And that alone tells Ethan that this wasn't abandoned because they saw promise in this, so it was prioritized. The breakthrough came from something called the mutamycetes, a fungus. The report describes it as highly evolved, capable of altering a host in ways that go far beyond infection, and it's the foundation everything else is built upon. A quick side note, when Resident Evil talks about mycete, it is loosely inspired by a real-world system called mycelium, which is a network of fungi that grows underground, connects large environments, and transfers nutrients and chemical signals between organisms, but that is where fact and fiction begin to draw a line. Because real mycelium doesn't think, store memory, or control behavior, whereas the metamycete in Resident Evil is written as an active system that can do all of that. And while in the real world there are fungi that can influence insect behavior through parasitic infection, that influence is limited and biological rather than cognitive. But okay, from there, Ethan learns that these researchers were creating people, genetically engineering them. The metamycete genome was introduced into human embryos at an early age, then cultivated over the course of nearly a full pregnancy. The results were labeled as quote-unquote candidate specimens, tested and graded based on how usable they were. This answers the question that I actually just asked myself. Eveline was already designed to be a monster since conception. She was bioengineered in the womb to be a BOW, not converted into one after birth. Over time, those experiments evolved through multiple series, eventually leading to what the reports call the E-Series, the most refined, the perfect version. So it started at A and went all the way to E. This explains kind of the D-Series arm and head a bit more. To my understanding, all the past series were weapons like Eveline just failed. Hence these small bodies and cases and body parts, and probably that little girl that had the D-Series arm attached to her. But there's also a detail that sticks with Ethan. All of these bioweapons were designed to look like young girls, around 10 years old. And the reason behind this was because it makes them easier to blend in, easier to move unnoticed through civilian populations. The first successful E-Series subject is Eveline. According to the report, Eve can secrete mutamycete from her own body, meaning she doesn't just exist as a host, she is the progenitor for the mold. Anybody exposed becomes infected, and once that happens, control begins to settle in. And this is exactly what the researchers wanted. I mean, sort of exactly. This was the purpose behind creating the E-Series. They wanted to control others. The mechanism is not fully understood, but the working theory compares it to pheromones used by bacteria, talking chemical signals that influence behavior, coordinate it, control it. The report then outlines how that control takes hold. Almost immediately after infection, the subject begins to see Eveline, even when she isn't physically there. They will start to hear her voice, even though nobody else can. She will also appear normal at first, like a child asking for attention or help, but soon Eve will make demands of them to hurt others, to hurt themselves, consistently escalating. And Ethan can see what they're doing here. The hallucinations are part of the process, effective in that they break the person down and erode their ability to resist. Eve was made to take a person apart piece by piece until there is nothing left except servitude. However, there is one more document that Ethan will need to read in order to better understand what he's up against. He learns that Eve can create organisms directly from mycelia, which are the filament structures of a fungus. Think of it like microscopic fungal threads, if you will, which is why when you look closely, you can sometimes see these weird patterns on mold. Well, Eve can build entire creatures out of them. These organisms are described more aptly as superorganisms, made up of large networks of fungal matter rather than a single unified body. They exhibit strong survival behavior and respond aggressively when provoked. They have increased physical durability and strength, clearly able to be used for the battlefield, and researchers would call these superorganisms that Eve creates the molded. The report then moves to possible treatment methods. It describes a process using samples taken from Eveline's body to produce a fungicidal serum. Some of the steps in this process are redacted, so the exact method is not fully clear. However, when the serum is administered to an infected subject, it causes the fungal structures inside of the body to calcify. Now, if the infection has not spread extensively, this may stop further progression. But should the infection already be widespread, the serum is going to result in death, and because of this, the effective treatment window is extremely limited. So this serum should only and be primarily used for the disposal of infected individuals rather than for recovery. Further experimentation on this serum led to the creation of a compound referred to as E-necrotoxin, and this is a stronger, significantly more potent version of the serum. It's lethal even in very small amounts. And then the report starts talking about Evie's behavior. It documents a repeated pattern in her infected subjects, noticing that individuals exposed to Eveline begin to assume roles within a family structure, specifically acting as parental figures, and they would actually treat Eveline as their daughter, regardless of their prior identity. Now, while there is no confirmed definitive cause for this behavior, one explanation proposed that Eveline innately knew that a family structure allows for easier integration into social environments compared to an isolated individual, right? Because their goal is to infiltrate a city, maybe, and infect everybody to make everybody their servants. However, another explanation postulates that this behavior may be related to Eveline's upbringing, specifically a lack of parental attachment during her containment. In fewer words, the girl wanted love, to feel wanted, to have family. Moving on and opening a container, he sees one of the BOWs with what appears to be an umbilical cord still attached to it, and then he mixes the necrotoxin. More powerful than what Zoe made before, this is what Ethan needs to stop Eveline. Pressing through the mines, he would encounter a minor problem. Eveline started to shake the foundation of the mines, and Ethan would be forced to race out of there before it all came crashing down on him. So, taking down all of the molded, as Eveline's laughs could be heard in his ear, he makes it out, launches fire grenades at a couple bigger molded ones, and then he gets back to the house. The first thing he sees is that old lady's chair, but he doesn't see the old lady, so he doesn't think much of it. But then he starts to hallucinate, seeing what he saw earlier when he was with Mia trying to get out, and then he looks on the desk to see E-Series 1, E001, and flipping it over, it's the old lady. And that's when it clicks for him. The old lady, what Lucas emailed to that unknown party, what Alan said in the videotape about her needing treatments, it all adds up. Eveline is the old lady. And she was right in front of us this whole time, following Ethan everywhere, but he never thought much of her. Further in, the hallucinations get worse with Eve telling him that this is all his fault.
Ethan, it's okay. It's okay, it's me. I know you didn't mean to hurt me.
Kill him, Mommy.
But you shouldn't have done that! It fucking hurts!
He doesn't want to be my daddy? Then he can die. Now it's Mommy's turn to kill you. You're gonna be one of us. And then maybe you'll play nicely.
I'm not playing.
No! Get that away from me!
Leave me to die!
With the world losing color, Ethan fights his way to the attic and finds Evie there. He needs to inject her with the necrotoxin, but she's not making this easy. Pushing him back with the same gale force that she summoned to destroy his ship, her waves of hate and torment come crashing into him, but Ethan does not yield.
No! No, no, no!
You.
Why does everyone hate me?
Eveline was resisting the necrotoxin, lunging as much as she could towards Ethan, who kept detonating bombs in her face. But the situation goes full-blown catastrophic when she shoves him outside and emerges as this molded mass with black roots and tendrils all swirling around her. Eveline's face could still be made out, but her form was no longer there as her voice boomed throughout the air and began striking Ethan. He could do nothing as she smacked him across the face and then stabbed her molded spikes into his leg, holding him up.
I just wanted a family.
Did I?
They say that when one door closes, another opens. Well, a door closed tonight. And what a long night it was. But not just for me. Mia and I weren't the only victims here. So were the Bakers. It was that thing, Eveline, who made them that way. But now Eveline's dead. And these guys are here to clean up the mess. I had just come to terms with losing Mia. But now she's back and wants to start over. Put all this behind us. Maybe this is where the next door opens.
Couple of things. First, from what we just saw in that ending, why is Luke Bryan here? And why is he calling himself Red Chrisfield? Seriously, who is this guy? He does not look like Chris Redfield. And Umbrella. Umbrella's back. But I am curious how many of you actually made it this far to see the newspaper at the very end. Next to the picture of the Bakers, if you zoom in, you can see the report talk about how the BOW takes the form of a child, Eveline in this case, which can be purchased and raised to suit the client's needs. That's just sick. However, it continues that the BOW's purpose is mind control, and that they can be used for political and military purposes or just straight up economic destabilization. The method of contact is skin to skin, which tells us that Ethan got infected as soon as he touched Mia. But below this talks about the injections, the treatments Eveline needed. If she misses her treatments, she's going to age 25 times faster than normal, hence why Eve became that old lady. The question is, why did Alan and Mia miss her treatments? It also states that Eve would begin to degrade, go insane, and become a danger to everyone around her. Under experimentation, the longest they've managed to observe a BOW go without injections is 6 months, and that was already pushing it. It continues that Eve's mold could infect the environment, meaning all the living life forms, the plants, the animals within the surrounding area, wherever it touches. Anywhere it goes, it'll propagate mold even further, and the ingestions of it will cause insanity and mutations, and this is why Marguerite and Jack kept on trying to force people to eat their quote-unquote food. And then it ends by saying there is some indication that the mold could be used to resurrect the dead. And I'm sure we're going to see that come into play later on. But you might be wondering what happens if we saved Zoe instead of Mia.
I'm sorry. I really am. But Zoe will be able to guide the two of us to safety, and then I can come back for you.
Go! I don't want to hear it. Both of you just go!
Mia.
Go! My place is here. With her.
Don't be ridiculous.
You forget. I still have a job to do.
Zoe can't believe that Ethan saved her over the woman he married, and his response is crazy. That Mia is no good to anyone right now, but that he and Zoe can get away in peace. So then he asks her about everything that happened. She says that Eve and Mia came here together, and that is when everything started. For Ethan, he realizes that Mia was lying to him, and when the boat comes into view, she says that that is the boat that Mia and Eve arrived on. Ethan wants to see what's on the ship and what his wife was up to, but Zoe is terrified and just wants to leave. But Eveline wasn't going to let her. She calcifies Zoe and sends Ethan under the water. Later, Mia would find him encased, but she doesn't try to save him and shove him out like before. Instead, Eveline whispers into her head to kill him. During the fight, Mia would ask if he and that slut had a good time. Probably still not happy her husband chose some random woman over her. The couple have some quality one-on-one time with Ethan stabbing her through the sternum, resulting in her turning into dust, and after all is said and done, Ethan leaves alone in the helicopter. Mia is not there next to him. However, that is not the canon ending, so don't remember this too much. The true ending is where she leaves on the copter with him. But there was still the mystery of what happened to Zoe and Lucas, as well as who it was that Lucas was in contact with. A phone rings, and the contact name is Company. Lucas answers, seemingly in distress, asking if they can begin because they have work to do. Picking up immediately after Ethan leaves on the helicopter, Chris talks to HQ, saying that Ethan Winters was secured. But then, Chris gets asked, what of Lucas? They need him because he is the only link to a group called The Connections. Now, the Company, the third unknown party, the people who made the mold, created Eveline, the organization that Alan and Mia worked for, had a name. The Connections. But who are the Connections exactly? And are they the same as the family from Resident Evil 6? Chris starts looking for Lucas, knowing he has a setup down here in the mines. He'd been running experiments with the mold and soon Chris would find him.
I'm getting you out of here.
Leave me. It's too late.
We're both walking out of here.
I got news for you.
What?
That's not gonna happen. Oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Now, you can try and take that off all you want, but I'd advise against. My hand might slip and...
Lucas!
No! Oops. Now, here's the deal, Chris. You don't follow me, and I don't bounce your head off the ceiling. Oh, the same goes for your little soldier brains, too. Adios. Muchachos.
Men always seem to die around Chris. HQ tells him to come back up and get the bomb removed, but he doesn't want to let Lucas get a head start and slip away, so he keeps it pushing. During his descent on the lift, he gets notified that Lucas has been giving status updates on Eveline to the Connections, and she reiterates that he needs to bring Lucas in alive, but Chris takes a jab at Umbrella.
Are you sure you just don't want to recruit him?
Chris, we've been over this.
Maybe the BSAA is convinced. If they weren't, I wouldn't be here. But working with Umbrella is going to take some getting used to on my part.
I know it must be difficult, and to tell the truth, a lot of our members have been with us since even before we reincorporated as a PMC.
Or private military company. Blue Umbrella is a rebrand of the original Umbrella. Chris is still with the BSAA, but right now he's working in conjunction with Blue Umbrella to secure Lucas and to try and find the Connections. However, his ambivalence is deserved, because Chris comes from a time where Umbrella rewarded twisted brilliance, and the world suffered from so many viruses because of it. Reading about the mission he was on, Operation Lurking Fear, we see that he's here to take Lucas in. Lucas is one of the molded, but he's got the alpha variants of the mold. Page over, it talks about how Blue Umbrella needed Chris to act as their BOW specialist. They were up against the Connections, a criminal organization that produces BOWs to sell on the international black market. The thing is, they know practically nothing about the Connections, apart from them being suspect number 1 in the production and distribution of the E-Series bioweapon. Another file talks about how Umbrella reincorporated back in 2007, but they took in a lot of staff from the original Umbrella. Probably not a good idea. However, New Umbrella's goals were to make up for the crimes against humanity that the original Umbrella committed. Umbrella Reincorporated wants to fight bioterrorism now, to take responsibility for the mess they caused, but why not just make a new company name and logo? It's a bit suspicious, don't you think, to try and regain public trust under Umbrella? But moving forward, Chris finds one of Umbrella's men.
Everything's all right now.
That's just what he wants you to think. I'm just the bait, and you fell for it.
What? Oh, shit!
Take the filter. I'm my mask. Hurry.
But you'll die.
You did anyway.
Track, Chris. Watch your left.
Lucas! No! I'm sorry.
If the guy knew it was a trap, why not warn Chris before he comes in? Pressing along, Chris comes face to face with a white molded, a new variant of the mold, presumably stemming from Lucas's experiments. The white molded are impervious to regular bullets, requiring the use of ramrods, which have been coincidentally placed all around here. Finding the rapid-acting mycetotoxic rounds, Chris is able to defeat the white molded with ease. Continuing on, he encounters another one of Umbrella's men, only for his head to blow up. Lucas would then call in, talking about being tired of games, and Chris would relent that 3 of his men are now dead because of him, and Lucas only gloats that it is about to be 4, as he activates the bomb on Chris's wrist. But it doesn't blow up right away, like it did for the others. Lucas gives Chris a chance to survive. 10 minutes. 10 minutes is all he can spare for Chris to find a way out of this dire situation. HQ tells him that there's liquid nitrogen nearby that he can use to freeze the bomb off. Shoving his hand in, it's a wonder that his hand doesn't suffer any damages from the flash freezing, but he's wearing gloves. It freezes the bomb long enough for him to take it off and throw it across to explode away from him. From there, he opens up this giant cylindrical shield and he enters, but it's just another one of Lucas's traps. But Lucas would soon find that Chris wasn't locked in there with the molded. The molded were locked in there with him.
Okay, no more, all right? I don't have anything left.
You won't get any sympathy from me, asshole.
I know. I've done terrible things. Horrible things. I killed your man. I tortured them. And I enjoyed every second, soldier boy. Just like I'm going to enjoy watching you burn. Oh, hear that? Sounds like time's running out for you. Tick-tock, Christopher. Tick-tock.
If you're gonna kill me, just kill me. For the love of God, shut the fuck up.
Oh, I wish I could stay and watch you burn to death. But I can't. I have an elsewhere to be. Bye-bye.
Escaping from his would-be fiery metal tomb, HQ informs Chris that Lucas had just sent a message to the connections telling him that he took care of Chris and Umbrella. Lucas says he's going to send them the data, but when all is said and done, he's going to cut ties with them. Chris takes this information as a good thing because now he has the element of surprise. In one of Lucas's labs, Chris finds a padded room where they were observing their experiments. Now, seeing Evie's chair, as well as the dolls of her and Mia, if that's who they are or if all the BOWs were given dolls, makes me wonder if Eveline was contained here at some point. Because there's even a picture of her and Mia standing in front of the ship. Perhaps all E-series look like Eveline. Part of me also thinks that Eveline wasn't actually here because there's no way that she would allow Lucas to take her down into the mines to stay here in a lab and get experimented on again. So I think that Lucas and the connections were actually working in conjunction secretly to try and replicate the E-series without Evie upstairs knowing about them. And if this is explained in future games, don't tell me. I'm just starting to wonder if the connections were attempting to make another Eveline without the detrimental side effects. And yet, it does get confusing, admittedly, because you gotta remember that Jack carries her into the house in the beginning, then she just takes over everything, and up until Ethan kills her, she has control over everyone. However, in this room are also observation logs about E001 from 2016. Her obsession with family was still prevalent, and then it writes that the more her mental and physical states worsened, the more mold she would secrete, causing problems for everyone, until eventually we would read that she becomes old. Don't quote me on this, I could be wrong, but honestly the only thing I can think of as to why this room is even here with everything that is in here is what I said earlier. The connections were trying to clone E-Series 1. It seems like they did it too. However, she became old and demented, though the researchers don't know why. This happened down here while the Eveline that we encounter throughout the main game is back upstairs. Again, I reason clone because I don't see how Eveline would agree to being down here. And it also just doesn't make sense because we know that she's been up there with the rest of the Bakers, kidnapping people and trying to make everybody her family, so she just couldn't be down here. But moving on, we read about the Connections researchers. In June of 2017, one wrote that they did not like Lucas. The Connections made him lead researcher over people who went to Stanford. and his behavior, making subjects fight each other and doing unnecessary autopsies on them, was something that he was going to report to HQ about. However, Chris soon finds and sneaks up on Lucas, causing him to run, and entering the room he was just in, Chris reads one of Lucas's logs where he said that he killed all of the Connection's researchers. He would then report it to them as an accident, and then decide it was time to disconnect from the Connections. He would also state that he is the only one who knew how to actually use Eve's mold. Then Chris would find another little note. Lucas was going behind the Connection's back and selling the E-data to somebody else, already setting up that transfer. With this, Chris catches up to Lucas.
We know you're funneling info to someone.
That's none of your goddamn business, Chris. A lot of people out there want to know about our little AV. A lot of people.
Your friends, the Connections, know about this? They don't strike me as the forgiving type.
That's my business. You let me worry about that. You're about to have your hands full. I can't. I don't. No. I don't believe it.
Believe it. It's over.
No. No way.
Just shut up and accept it, Lucas.
Love that, wouldn't you? Oh boy.
Got a situation down here.
Infection is at critical mass.
Tell me something I don't.
Oh, I got something for you. I'm fucking strong.
You're going to need to proceed with caution. Extreme caution.
Oh, well, that's different. Like I haven't been since we got here.
Dropping down in a moldy goop was Lucas in his final stage of infection. It's a bit curious, however, because the Connections gave something to him to break free of Eve's control, and initially I thought it was a cure for the sickness, but I guess he was still infected, just no longer brainwashed. Pumping into him, Chris would shoot his exposed weak points with ramrod shots, which were highly effective, ending the madness that was Lucas Baker.
Game over. Finally.
Chris, the data transfer is almost complete.
How do I stop it?
You need to find a way to shut down the server. There may be some transformer relays you can... Okay, that worked. Gonna be some pissed computer techs up here, but...
Cry me a river. What's the sit rep?
The facility is clear. Even the newer breeds have been neutralized.
Then I'm out of here.
With that threat eliminated and the data stream stopped, Chris heads over to the Baker's residence to look at their photo. Umbrella has set up a perimeter wall and quarantined the area now.
Think we did any good here?
Not for them, unfortunately. But the mold is contained. Hopefully, they're Evie's last victims.
Hopefully.
Chris, there's a call for you. You need to take it back at the camp.
All right. I'm on my way.
No! Evie! Please!
Hey, I think she
What
was
the
in
hell you
LCA.
boys up to?
That's her, all right. Zoe Baker. She's still breathing. Call it in the HQ.
Did you say Zoe?
Sir, do you live here?
What the hell's wrong with her?
We're
Zoe!
here to help. So
What
everything...
in God's name have you done?
Sir. Whoa! Stop! Stop!
Oh my goodness, Zoe. What the hell do they do to you?
Listen to me. We're here to help.
No, I don't believe you, boy. Tell me, what kind of help comes in a helicopter gunship?
You don't know what you're talking about. You don't get it.
You think I don't know who you people are? With all these monsters running around here. Tell me, where'd they come from?
It's not what you think. You don't understand!
Well, I don't understand! You see that girl back there? Look! That there, my brother's little girl. My niece, you understand? And around here, family is a righteous cause. And you ain't gonna kill my family. Now see, that ain't something I can abide.
For fuck's sake. She's infected. She's dying. And we're both gonna fucking die if we don't get the fuck out of here right now.
She ain't dead yet, boy. So I figure you better do something about it. Before I feed you to your little friends outside.
Okay. There's a cure.
You're lying to me.
I'm not lying. I'm not lying. We were on our way to get her treatment, and you fucked that up when you jumped us. They're probably still waiting for us right now.
Where?
So, this takes place weeks after what happened with Chris. Joe Baker is Zoe's uncle, and he is probably one of the most badass characters in the series. I instantly liked him. Like, he was straight hands, ask questions later. He was intense, and I loved it. You can see he has that old man rage. There's just something about it. I don't know what it is, but it's alluring and interesting to watch. And Joe is just as vehemently obsessed with family as Eveline is. Joe's about to go through hell and high water to save his niece. The man on the floor says there's an old shack nearby, and he can find the other Umbrella soldiers who have the serum. But before he leaves, Joe reviews one of his journal entries where he documents having seen one of the molded. He says the monster tried to attack him, so he punched its teeth in. Joe thinks the government is doing experiments, noting the helicopters he'd recently seen flying overhead. It wasn't long before Joe learned how to kill the molded. No guns, just bare fists. Moving along, promising he was going to save crystallized Zoe, he satisfyingly destroys the molded. By the way, one question I had was why was she crystallized at all? It's apparent that the mold can still function independent of Eveline, because by this point she's gone, but the molded are still around and Zoe hardens into this crystal form, which by the way reminds me of Final Fantasy XIII. So I'm guessing that because she had the infection for such a long time, but was naturally resistant, her body was finally reaching that point where it could no longer sustain itself against the mold, leaving her in this suspended state. Like her body is still naturally fighting the mold, but it's getting to the point where it's too much. Moving on, Joe finds the shack, and he sees that all the men are dead. When he takes the E-type cure back to his shack, he notices a tree collapsing on the side. And then he sees that his home is on fire and there are infected gators. Do gators get this big, by the way? Lying on the ground on top of a bunch of fish. Joe quickly runs in to give Zoe the cure.
All right, now just let it work. Damn it! Why ain't it working?
It wasn't full, was it? It won't be enough. She needs a full dose to heal completely. There's more at our base. Just untie me, and I'll take you there. Please!
What base? Shit. Gotta get Zoe out of here. Gotta get going. God, this is some horror movie bullshit. Okay. It's okay now, Zoe. God damn it all.
On the waters, Joe notices the perimeter wall that Umbrella set up, wondering where it came from. Placing his niece down safely on a couch, he stomps, rips heads until they explode, and spears his way through the molded in the Umbrella camp where he would find a note talking about how the mold is on the loose in the swamp. The mutamycete will continue to propagate with each new organism that it encounters. Also on this note, they wrote down where the serum is, on a boat.
A paddle boat. Damn it. You boys ain't making this simple.
But, on the path to that boat, he would encounter the Swamp Thing. No questions or hesitations though. Joe boxes that monster up like a Christmas gift. But the monster wasn't dead yet, because after Joe punches through the door, the Swamp Thing grabs his face the way that Jack did to Ethan, and if Joe didn't block this punch, it could have been a nasty blow. But round 2 ensues and Joe puts his face into the dirt before teabagging him. And just as he was leaving, the Swamp Thing gets up again. But this time it calculates all the possibilities of winning against Joe and leaves, knowing that it was 0. So Joe goes into the ship and synthesizes Zoe's medicine.
What? Oh, come on! This is it. Finally.
Giving this molded monster the beatdown of its short life, Joe takes spears out of his pocket and impales it all over, but that still wasn't enough. So, Joe drives his fist into its face even more, squelching sounds and sludge splattering all over.
Take this! That's how you get it done! I'm coming for you, Zoe. Zoe, I brought Joe medicine. You're going to be fine. No!
Chasing after them in a boat, Swamp Thing disappears with the fog. But following the path ahead, eventually, Joe makes it to a church where he would find her.
It's a goddamn sacrilege.
How Joe gets out of the sealed coffin, I don't know. But more importantly, how is Jack still alive? Ethan gave him the serum, so why is he still here? Passing by Umbrella's boats, he hears a commotion over the radio. Jack's at the house where Umbrella had set up camp, so Joe begins to run over, but before he gets there, he stumbles upon one of Umbrella's weapons, the Advanced Multi-Purpose Gauntlet, or the AMG.
What the hell is this? Are there fancy toys?
Ready for use.
Decimating a metal door, he finds the Umbrella camp right outside of the Baker house. However, it appears that Jack slaughtered everybody. Heading into the tent, Joe eats a crawfish, and then he reads a document detailing that after the Umbrella researchers had studied his brother's tissue samples, they learned that Jack has an extraordinary resilience to damage and an abnormally fast regeneration factor. It's also noted that this is not something seen in the other Bakers, noting that the effects of the mold could vary subject to subject. So this explains how Capcom was able to shoo Jack back into the mix. And it's a good setup too, because they could practically create whatever plot device they want or change any story around or whatever they want, bring anybody back basically, just by saying this. Another document regards the AMG, in that it was originally designed to help lift heavy things. It connects to the user, detecting their nerve impulses, and not only gives them extra strength, but reduces any recoil damage to 0. Now, if this glove was made just for transporting things, why have shock absorbers? I mean, I guess, I don't know. The only thing I lift is my coffee mug. Punching the door open, he sees Zoe in the chair, and that the entire house has been quarantined. This no longer looks like a home, not even an evil residence anymore, just part of another operation.
Zoe, wake up! Wake up!
Joe had no choice. He had to put his brother down. It's what Jack would have wanted. The two brothers go pound for pound, with Joe charging up his gauntlet to really lay into him. His power and flurry of combos staggers Jack and even interrupts his flow of attacks.
You remember me, right? You remember the time I broke your nose when we were kids? You remember when I clotheslined you into the swamp?
By the way, to clothesline someone is to hold your arm out and hit somebody across the neck or chest to make them fall backwards. Think of wrestling. Since they were kids, Jack and Joe were rather rough with one another. And even into their old age, even though they didn't really seem close, the brothers did show love for one another through one of the only ways they knew how to bond.
This is farewell from the family, brother. Zoe. Zoe, hang in there. You're gonna be all right now. Wake up, Zoe.
Joe, what happened to her? Are you okay?
I'm fine. Don't you worry about me. It's all over now.
Go, 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 go!
Don't move! Get your hands up! Get down!
Weapons down! Weapons down! It's all right. You must be Zoe Baker.
Who the hell's asking?
Chris Redfield. Been looking all over for you. We're here to help.
You're gonna be just fine.
I was trapped with those monsters for 3 years. All of them trying to kill me. I can't believe it's finally over.
You gotta know. Deep down somewhere, they were still your family. And they loved you. Especially your daddy. Even in his final days.
We found her. She's a tough kid. Of course. Hang on. Someone wants to speak to you.
Zoe. Zoe, are you there?
It's you. I don't believe it. You actually made it.
We both did.
You didn't forget about me.
I told you I'd send help, and I always keep my promises.
Thank you, Ethan.